Decisions. Recently, I was invited to an all-male high school in Louisville, Kentucky, to serve as a guest speaker. The school serves primarily boys of color and utilizes an Afrocentric curriculum designed to help students excel both academically and socially. Because of my community engagement work, I've established some relationships with people at the school, so I welcome an opportunity to engage the young men. I'll admit that I struggled at first to come up with a topic compelling enough for a group of teenagers. I also thought about the fact that it was a school-based event, so I wrestled with exactly just how real I could keep it. However, I decided to stay authentic and transparent and tell the young men what I would tell my own son. My message, therefore, was that as men, particularly black men, decision making was the most important skill they would ever develop. I also shared that discipline would factor greatly in their decision making. So, to be specific, I shared that their ability to exhibit emotional discipline, financial discipline, and sexual discipline would contribute to shaping their futures and who they would ultimately become as men. First, emotional discipline, my message centered on how difficult it would be to remain rational while they were emotional. As the old saying goes, the first casualty of emotion is reason. I tried to impress upon the young men that, fair or not, as black men, they would be expected to remain calm in pressure-filled situations, and if they didn't, the world wouldn't give them much, if any, grace, even if they were making ill-advised decisions in the heat of the moment. Therefore, they needed to train themselves to pause long enough so that they could weigh the likely outcomes of their decisions before making any mistakes. Therefore, they needed to train themselves to pause long enough to weigh the likely outcomes of their decisions before making them so they could develop a habit of choosing with their minds and not their hearts. I made sure to let them know this didn't mean they should seek to either avoid their feelings or suppress them. However, having discipline to effectively manage their emotions would likely place them in much more advantageous positions relative to the alternatives. Second was financial discipline. When it came to financial discipline, I reminded the young men that a fool and his money will soon part. So, in other words, they needed to be wise with their money. I encouraged them to think long term about their finances and to try to strike a balance between the notion that you only live once and the reality that being frivolous with their economic resources would likely make it difficult for them to accumulate wealth in the long run. If their experiences were anything like mine, in 5 years, they wouldn't even be in communication with the people from middle or high school. And for those reasons, spending money trying to impress those folks would take on less and less significance over time. I also caution them against indulging in get-rich-quick schemes because the truth is, if it was really that easy, the word would already be out and we would all be involved already. Therefore, when the time came, they would be much better served by living within their means, being serious about saving money, and also doing their research to become financially literate so they could take advantage of smart investment opportunities. Third and finally was sexual discipline. I let them know that they weren't under any obligation to have sex just because it was offered or just because it was possible. My goal was to make sure the young men knew that sex was a decision and that every single decision they made had consequences. We spent time brainstorming a range of potential consequences, including health, social, and financial implications. Most importantly, the young men opened up about their relationships with their fathers. Some had high-quality relationships, while others lamented inconsistent and sometimes altogether disengaged dads. As the young men shared, it was clear that those who had involved fathers wanted to create similar relationships with their own children whenever the time came, while those who had less than desirable relationships swore that they would never inflict that type of pain onto their children. I seized the obvious opportunity to share that as a fatherhood researcher, I've learned that responsible fatherhood means delaying fatherhood until men have the requisite emotional, economic, and relational capacity to ensure healthy and sustained engagement with their children. I was pleased that the young men were willing to share their experiences and receptive to me sharing mine. I walked away with a personal and professional reflections that I've been replaying in the weeks since I met with them. Personally, I've long believed that becoming a father is the most consequential decision I've ever made, and my hope is to always approach it with the discipline to do what I think is right, given the best information. Connecting with this group of young men reinforced my commitment to working with families and the organizations that serve them in hopes to ensure fathers are positioned to act on their intentions to play similar roles in the lives of their children.